Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Citizens for Informed Land Use, or CILU's 2024 Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am Julie Roth, the current president of CILU, and I have with me tonight R.G. Malonis and Bill Little from the CILU board. CILU is a nonpartisan Homedale organization started in 1998 to protect our open space and natural resources. Over 26 years of existence, we have been successful at various open space preservation initiatives. We also advocate for government transparency, which requires an informed community. It is to that end that we are holding this candidate forum. One of CILU's most significant accomplishments has been the preservation and development of the Raminescent Brook Greenway, formerly Chase Tract. As you walk through the woods from Homedale Park to Bayonet Farm, you can enjoy the results of the efforts of many volunteer members of Citizens for Informed Land Use. More recently, CILU worked for the preservation of Crawford Hill, which has now been designated Robert E. Wilson Park. We are currently advocating for the responsible redevelopment of Vonage to protect the preservation zoning of Southern Homedale and our watershed. This evening, we have 6 of the 7 candidates for the Homedale Board of Education with us. Unfortunately, Mary Corrigan is unable to join us as her family has experienced a death. So she has sent in a statement that I will read on her behalf at an appropriate time. I would like to thank the candidates not only for joining us tonight, but for taking time out of their work lives and their family lives to serve our community. We are grateful. So the order of presentations will be alphabetical by candidate last name. Each candidate will be allotted 1 minute to present an opening statement. A question period will follow the introductions by the candidates. Questions have been submitted by the community, and each candidate will be asked the same questions. We will rotate the order in which the questions are responded to. This is not a debate. This is a forum, which allows candidates to state their positions on policies regarding the different issues that affect our school district. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Each candidate will have no more than 1 minute to respond, and all candidates have the option of passing on a question. There will be a timekeeper, hi RG, who will hold up a yellow card when the speaker has 30 seconds of time remaining. The timekeeper will hold up a red card when the time is up. The speaker must conclude with the sentence in progress, after which his or her microphone will be muted. At the conclusion of the question period, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a summation. The order of the summation will be in reverse of the opening statements. So at this time, I would like to welcome our candidates individually, and we'll begin with our opening statements in alphabetical order. Dr. Kahlur, welcome, and you may begin.
Thank you. Well, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to participate in this forum. I'm both a resident and a business owner in Homedale, where I've opened my eye care practice, Bayshore Ophthalmology, for the last 20 years. Serving my patients has always been driven by a deep passion for community, and it was the same passion that drove me to run in 2021 for the Homedale Board of Education. As a physician, I understand the transformative power of education. It's shaped my path across 3 continents as an ophthalmologist, a surgeon, and a business owner. And it's the reason I am where I am today. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in my first term. I maintained a strong focus on STEM education, promoting expansion of academic offerings and internships. I chaired and participated in various committees and the 5-year strategic planning initiative. As a doctor passionate about nutrition, I worked to introduce healthier lunch options, initiated discussions to create a more inclusive calendar. As I seek re-election, I remain committed to continuing this work.
Thank you, Dr. Kahlur. I will now read a statement on behalf of Mrs. Corrigan. She says, "My name is Mary Corrigan. My husband, Bill, and I have been in Homedale since 1980. We have raised 5 children here, and they all went through the Homedale school system. We now have 17 out of 19 grandchildren who attend our excellent school system. After over 30 years, I continue to serve on our Recreation Advisory Committee. Over the years, I have served on various committees of the PTO, including as president and secretary. I'm a past board member of the Homedale Theater Company, housed at the Duncan Smith Theater. I'm committed to hard work, common sense, respect for Homedale's ongoing educational excellence, and strong family values. I will prioritize implementing policies that put the needs of parents and children first. I will advocate for Homedale students and community with the 3 S's: support, support, support. With your support, we can build on our proud history and work together toward an even brighter future. My experience of 34 years working in education has well prepared me to serve on the Board of Education. I'm very passionate about preserving the quality and integrity of our excellent educational system, and I care greatly about helping prepare our next generation of leaders. And again, that was from Mrs. Corrigan. Okay, moving on with our opening statements, we have Mr. Giampolo.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is John Giampolo. I moved to Homedale about 7 years ago with my wife and children. I came to like everything about it, from everything from the values of the residents to the suburban, rural, rustic environment and scenery here. And that led me to want to do what I can to try to keep Homedale the way it's been, which led to me serving for years now on the zoning board and the finance advisory committee of Homedale. Came to realize how important the schools are. We all pay a property tax bill here, and we all want the best for our kids. I even put my kids in private school for a year, but soon realized how much my kids would rather be in Homedale public schools, how much they missed that experience. So since then, they've been back in Homedale public schools, and I've seen a real commitment to doing everything I can, doing my part to keep Homedale schools the way we all want them to be. You may have seen me over the past year or two at Board of Ed meetings, speaking in support of parental rights. Parental rights, as well as academic excellence and safety for the children, is going to be the forefront of everything that I do as a member of the Board of Education, as well as fiscal responsibility, which has been a big part of what I've been doing for years, serving on Homedale's Finance Advisory Committee. These elections are important because you want the schools to stay the way you want them to be. You want your children to receive the best education, best environment. So I hope you consider that when you vote for Terrence Wall, Mary Corrigan, and John Giampolo for Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo. It's now time for Mr. Kim. Your opening statement, please.
Hi, my name is Raymond Kim, and I'm a father of 3 children attending Village and Indian Hill schools. Some of you may know me as a local trust and estates attorney, a coach through HYAA, or for my volunteer work with the Homedale Fire Department. What matters most to me is our children, their families, and the quality of education that supports them. Homedale values goodwill and good faith, and we expect the same from our public servants. That's why I'm running for the Board of Education, to represent Homedale families and ensure public service, not self-service, prevails. Public education is a powerful tool for opportunity. Whether our children aim for Wall Street, Broadway, Silicon Valley, or Main Street, we owe it to them to help achieve their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Sargent, is your audio working? Are you there?
Sure. Could you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Great, thanks.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to say thanks to CILU for hosting this event and giving the community the opportunity to listen to us candidates and what we stand for. As you said, my name is Jeff Sargent. I've been working in the financial services industry for over 25 years. I work on the trading floor of a top 3 global bank. I provide real-time legal guidance for complex transactions. As you can imagine, having that type of job is high stress. When you're providing do's and don'ts for those types of transactions, there's a significant amount of risks. But more importantly, that takes responsibility and trust. I deal with the most complex electronic trading systems, vendor platforms, some of the smartest developers, research analysts, et cetera, that come from the most reputable universities in this country, if not the world. That has trained me to think differently, ask difficult questions, challenge the status quo when appropriate, but most importantly, be innovative. My wife and I have been married 20 years this year. We have 2 girls, 13 and 15. We moved to Homedale 5 years ago. We spent 15 years in the top school district, Westfield. We fought moving to Homedale for 4 years. And once we got here, we kicked ourselves for wasting another 4 years of not being here. Homedale's charm captivated us, the vicinity to the beach, the amazing parks, and most importantly, the people that we met prior to even getting here. We knew this place was it then, and we still know it now today. Once COVID hit, things changed. In our opinion, we felt like the culture in the schools has changed. We started paying attention. I was always the type to trust my elected officials. I did not attend a lot of these meetings for that very reason. I voted for people that I was confident in that would represent my concerns, and we had similar values. recent events, unfortunately, have showed me that, that might not have been the best approach, and decided to jump in and get more involved. Luckily, the one positive for COVID for me was that now I have a better work-life balance. So here I am. I'm hoping I could gain your support after tonight's meeting, and look forward to serving the community for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Mrs. Tasillo.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Tasillo, and I've lived in Homedale for 38 years. My parents and my 3 sisters, along with their respective families, all still reside here in Homedale, all together raising our 10 children. My husband, David, and I, we have 4 children. 1 graduated in 2019 from Homedale High School, and 3 of which are currently enrolled in the high school, William R. Satz, and Indian Hill schools. I am a speech language pathologist and a member of the child study team for special education for the last 27 years. I am proud to be employed by the Freehold Township School District. And for 9 years in town, I've been involved in HYAA youth sports, most recently as the sitting HYAA secretary for the 3rd year running. I am once again running for the Homedale Board of Education because I'd like to continue the good work that I've been doing. I have a vested interest in our school district, our community, and in the Homedale Live Homedale Blue initiative, which is to be respectful, live responsibly, uphold fairness, and embrace our lovely community. I'm running for Board of Education to give back to my home, to give a voice to our community members and the students. And I believe my experience in education enables me to bring a unique perspective, not presently on the board other than myself. And I hope with your vote, I can continue to represent all parties and put our children first. Thank you for having me, and please vote column 1 for Tasillo, Kalor, and Kim.
Thank you, Mrs. Tasillo. Mr. Wall.
Good evening. I want to thank CILU for your work today, and the other candidates, and particularly my family, for their support. I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm a candidate for Board of Ed, and I serve as president of the 2024 Homedale Board of Education. One of the most perfect times to be in Homedale schools. Great leadership with our superintendent and fantastic administrative staff. Personally, I grew up in Homedale, a product of Homedale schools, and my wife and I are raising our families here today. I heard CILU mention earlier Chase Track. During my work as a committeeman, I helped preserve the Chase Track, De Palma Farms, F&F Nurseries, and Phillips Park, also now known as Veterans Park. Professionally, I'm in the public sector. I'm familiar with multi-million-dollar budgets, multi-million-dollar projects, and I try to bring that expertise every day to my volunteer work on the Homedale Board of Education. I serve as a C-level executive for a municipality now, and I have experience in 3 other municipalities running their local governments. And that's the kind of skill set that I like to continue to bring to the town. I have a Master's of Public Administration, an RMC, QPA, and AHP certifications, all of which tied to departments within the district. And so I look forward to having the discussions with you today and answering your questions. And I want to thank the public for watching. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. We are now moving into the question portion of the evening. And I would like to remind the candidates, make sure on your screen that you can see RG. I know across the top of my screen at 1 minute I couldn't, but there's a toggle arrow you can scroll through. RG will be holding up cards. I was a little bit gracious with the introductory statements, but when you see that yellow card, you have 30 seconds remaining. When you get to the red card at the end of the sentence in progress, you will be muted. So please do keep an eye on that throughout your responses. Now on to the questions. We are grateful to the many residents who submitted questions. Due to time constraints, we could not ask all of the questions that were submitted. So a committee of members considered all of the questions, and we tried to combine the ideas into succinct questions about a variety of topics. Our first question is in regards to the budget, and Mr. Giampolo, you will begin for our first question. It says, with looming increases in costs that the school district cannot control, such as transportation, utilities, and healthcare, the idea of eliminating courtesy busing has been discussed. What specific ideas do you propose to balance rising costs with the academic needs of students? Mr. Giampolo.
Thank you for the question. I would say first off that right now we've had an excellent Board of Ed president. We have an excellent Board of Education vice president and an excellent superintendent. I know that they've done a great job so far of maintaining the budget, being fiscally responsible. In terms of the looming costs, I think that there's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem managing them, maintaining them. And I would say that I'm not inclined to get rid of courtesy busing altogether, simply to that end.
Okay, thank you for your response. The question regarding the budget moves on to Mr. Kim. And if any point, if someone needs me to repeat the question, please don't be shy about that. Go ahead and ask and I'll happily repeat it. So Mr. Kim, your response to the budget.
Sure. So with the budget concerns, every year for I believe the past 6 or 7 years, the budget's increased $1 million. That has to stop. We can't have our taxpayers in town continue to foot the bill for inefficiencies. And so when we take a look at the budget, take a look at cost, take a look at where the investments the school district is making, we have to be very selective and choose things that are going to return investment to our town, people in our town. I authored an article in the Homedale Patch talking about our school rankings and our property values. And I urge everyone to take a look if you have a chance, because you'll be able to take a deeper dive into the numbers and understand the kind of predicament we're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. All right, moving on, Mr. Sargent, the budget question is up to you.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, it's easy to see you need revenue or you need to cut costs, right? I would look at prioritizing, taking a risk-based approach. What do we absolutely need? What can we get rid of? We can't continue to keep raising property taxes. The tax rates remained at 0%. Home assessments have helped with the situation, but if the economy turns and home prices fall, we all know where that's going to lead. Everybody's going to start disputing their taxes and getting them reduced. I would eliminate wasteful spending right off the top. This is subjective. It does require discussions. However, I think most people would agree, and whether this is true or not, this is the rumor going around, $2 million to refurbish an old house, in my opinion, isn't really money well spent, right? Given the financial constraints that we have. Another thing I would look at, such things as traffic pattern studies. How many of these have we had? Pete Reddy has said himself as a board member in a public meeting that we've had numerous of these, and yet we are where we are. To put it simply, I think we just need to make better decisions and review all our expenses and see what's absolute necessity to benefit our children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Moving on, Mrs. Tasillo, the budget question is to you.
Hi, so this is what I have to say. We've had the most fiscally responsible budget that we possibly can, making such a lot of efficiencies with a lot of restraints. I think that the current board, we had a big win this year with for the first time getting a piece of the pilot money. That's been something worked on and asked for many years before my time even. And this year was the first time that we have $300,000 of the pilot money coming to pay for our CILU officers. Teacher negotiations are coming up. We need concessions made by the teachers to help in budget constraints. And I think we just need to work on getting more pilot share from the township committee and work as hard as we can to push, and that takes the whole community, not just the Board of Ed. There needs to be pressure amongst the entire community.
Thank you, Mrs. Tasillo. Mr. Wall, the question is yours.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Sill's comments were right on. The courtesy busing, from my perspective, is off the table. To answer your question directly, I've saved, through my work on the board, which by the way is all documented, I initiated streaming the meetings live so folks can see the meetings from home and follow them. If you go through the work, the video and the audio, you'll see my body of work. Back to 2018, I initiated the discussion of sharing on pilot revenues. I provided ordinances to a former mayor, but the committee never acted on it. We have a fantastic partnership with the committee today. I've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars recalculating the health insurance for the district. That's one item. Energy saving improvement plans are another item. There is no $2 million proposal for a home. So I want folks to not worry about that kind of news because it's not accurate. The bottom line is the salary and wages are the primary driver of the budget. We are coming up to an expired contract. It's the relationship between class sizes and paying a fair rate to our talented educational staff and our administrative staff, and finding that balance, which has made Homedale great. We're entering one of the greatest, most stable periods from an administrative standpoint in Homedale's history. And I'm proud to be president of the board during that time. So as I
Thank you,
said,
Mr.
courtesy
Wall, your
busing,
time is up.
thank you very much.
Dr. Kalura, the question is yours.
You're muted.
You're muted, Dr. Kalura.
All right, that's better. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, thanks. So unfortunately, this continues to be a problem every year when we talk about buses, at least the last few years that I've been there, on how to save the money to accommodate the increasing costs of buses and transportation issues. We've considered stopping courtesy busing to vocational schools and to courtesy busing for people who live closer. And we try to maintain it as much as possible so far. And I'm excited about this grant we received from the state for 3.5 million, but that is meant to help with road widening and signal improvements. But hopefully that'll come up with some efficiencies with the busing and then save money, for us, besides making it safe for the schools as well. I also think we have to continue to be fiscally conservative by by seeing where every dollar is being spent. For example, not investing on any, millions of dollars on renovating an old house that has been proposed once in a while. And also we've spent enormous amount of funds for sports from the Homedale initiative. I think it's time to restrict the use of funds, in every area, right, as
Thank
well.
you, Dr.
Or
Kalura.
pilot
Time is
funds
up.
from the township. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, question 2. Mr. Kim, we will begin with you for our second question. Question 2 pertains to standardized testing. Homedale's district goals for the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 school years both include objectives that aim to improve NJSLA test scores. How do you view the role of standardized testing in evaluating student success and school performance? In your opinion, should improving NJSLA scores be a primary focus?
Thanks for the question. Standardized testing is very important. It helps us figure out, the progress of our children, helps us evaluate our teachers, what's happening in the classroom. And it helps us kind of plan for the future. Where are the blind spots in our teaching, in our curriculum? And so the question is a great one. Part of what I would love to do if I'm elected to the board is bring our schools up to the standard of blue ribbon schools of excellence. There's about 350 schools in the country that get this distinction. There are several in New Jersey. Homedale School should be one of the schools and the districts that have these schools. We have the means and we have the demographics to do great things. So why do I bring this up? Because standardized testing is a huge criteria in terms of getting these awards and these distinctions. So that is the goal, is for us to work on these things so that we can get the accolades that our district deserves.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Sargent, the question on standardized testing goes to you.
Sure. I have some thoughts on this one. This one is a little near and dear to me. I think it's great as a benchmark to see where you kind of land within a district or within a grade. However, I think it is too heavily weighted. For case in point, I know a number of kids, and unfortunately my child is one of them, full disclosure, gets over a 95 average for the year, but yet consistently does poorly on these tests and is held back from programs such as advanced placement or honors. To me, that's signals a bigger problem, right? There's a disconnect between what's being taught in the classrooms and how it's graded versus what's being tested on these tests. So I would do a deeper dive and figure out where exactly is the problem. Why is there such a disconnect? Because I talk to a lot of community members, and my child is not the only one. Okay, I actually talked to one member who also had the quite inverse. Their child does great on the test and bombs every class in school. So again, to me, that's more indicative of a bigger problem with a disconnect between what's on those tests versus what's being taught and how it's taught in the school system. So I would look into that.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent.
All right.
Mrs. Tasillo, the question is yours.
As a speech language pathologist, I use standardized testing as a tool in my toolbox for my whole career. I think it serves as a single data point in assessing student performance and the educational effectiveness, but it has its limitations. They are definitely a snapshot of academic achievement, and it helps identify trends in learning. I know that, for instance, based on standardized testing, my current junior, they were able to look as broad as the junior class and see that vocabulary has been an issue. So this year, there is a focus on vocabulary. I think that, again, it's a resource for us to be able to use. But it does not look at a full range of student abilities and potential. There's things like test anxiety, and we really need to consider multiple measures for student success as a comprehensive evaluation.
Thank you, Mrs. Cicillo. Mr. Wall.
Thank you very much for the question. My basic premise for volunteering is that we can do all things well, and nothing needs suffer. So, for example, when I mentioned that the idea of eliminating courtesy busing is off the table, that we have to maintain courtesy busing, is that we should find a way to maintain the Homedale values and the goals and objectives that parents expect. In regard to this particular item, I interpret the question as whether or not we should be teaching to a test, or we should be focusing primarily on one item to the detriment of others. And of course we shouldn't. We just need to apply common sense standards and common sense solutions to the issues of the day, and they change from year to year. So yes, the testing is important. Yes, it's a metric, as I heard during this conversation. It is a data point, and it's important. Our rankings since I began service have increased. The school rankings have increased. And this is also when we reopened fast during COVID, and Stanford and Harvard said we were the only district in the state of New Jersey that had no learning loss, which is a stunning fact when you consider the devastation during the pandemic, that Homedale is the only district that is identified by Stanford and Harvard. I think that matters a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
So,
your time is up.
oh, thank you. Okay.
Dr. Kalor, the question is yours.
Thank you. I do believe that students should be taught to improve as a whole in every aspect. But we have to have some objective metric to measure the performance of the school. And one objective measure we have is standardized testing. So I do believe that we have to, that they indicate how our school's working, and given its limitations that some kids may not be good test takers, but it is one measure we have. And if that measure is showing an improvement year after year, it shows that we are doing better in that respect, at least. And that's the point that future homeowners are going to keep looking at. And and rankings are a good indicator of how the school is doing. So I think we have to do a deeper dive. We did have poor performances in math and English a few years ago when there was a lot of lack of stability, and it is improving now, but we have to do much better, continue doing our good work so that the scores continue to improve year after year.
Thank you, Dr. Kalor. Mr. Giampolo.
Thank you. Is improving standardized testing scores important? Yes, it is, but also important to improve other means of measuring students' abilities and achievements. I'm probably one of the best people to ask that question because I was the student that in high school, I got A's in college level courses in high school, but my SAT scores were actually slightly below average. My scores on the standardized testing used for attorneys, as a financial restructuring attorney for practicing going on 20 years now, my scores for the standardized testing that was used going into law school, the LSAT, was also average or below average, even though I graduated law school with honors in the top 10% of my class. So I'm probably one of the best people to ask that. Yes, I understand, but whether you like them, appreciate them or not, much of the rest of the world is going to use standardized testing as a means to measure a student's achievements, abilities, criteria to get into college or other things. So yes, it is important to improve standardized testing scores, whether you believe it's a good assessment or not, because too much of the rest of the world does believe it's a good objective assessment. But
Thank
yes,
you, Mr. Giampolo. Your time is up. Thank you. All right, question 3, Mr. Sargent, we will be beginning with you. This question pertains to academics. Which areas of our academic curriculum are the strongest and which are the weakest? What steps could the board take to improve the quality of our curriculum?
Great question. One I've actually thought a lot about. where we stand, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses. Prior to doing any research, I would absolutely said math and special ed would be the strongest ones, and from talking to community members. However, just doing some quick research on various things and looking at the Nietzsche ratings, math was actually our weak link. I compared our district to 3 other premier districts, Chatham, Milburn, and Westfield, where I'm from. And surprisingly, in the reading proficiency, we were right up there with all of them. Math is where we lagged. So I would look into obviously seeing how we could improve those scores. Obviously we would want to, sorry, lost my train of thought here. Sorry. Yeah, so looking at those metrics, to my surprise, I was surprised that where we were in math. I would have thought, as I indicated at the beginning, that was one of our strong points. I know a lot of people come to Homedale for special ed and for mathematics, from talking to people.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Mrs. Tosillo, the question on academics goes to you.
So I agree with Mr. Sargent that math has been a sore spot, considering that it is such a focus on so many things. But I believe that this year, with the reformation of the waiver process, and who was allowed to get waived in versus not starting this year, I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a stronger foundation starting with 8th grade math and into Algebra 1, that perhaps those scores will improve. I think that one of our strongest and weakest areas overall is actually an odd thing, but I think our electives are a strength and also a weakness when it comes to SATs. I think we need to narrow it down a little bit so that we can spend more time on our core academics. We are significantly cut the time moving out of Indian Hill into SATs on English and math. And I'd like to, in order to have the rotating schedule and the all the electives.
Thank you, Mrs. Tosillo. Mr. Wall, the question on academics goes to you.
Thank you for the question. When I first joined the board, the first order of business was completing the $40 million referendum approved by the voters. It was completed on time and under budget. That included improvements in engineering, improvements in robotics in different areas of the district, also from the capital and infrastructure standpoint, to address the entire child, to address the entire family. To the point of a specific coursework, math is an area that has been a challenge, but to the credit of Superintendent Cascone and the other administrative teams, we've been bringing in the folks to have the right people in the right place at the right time to deliver the goals and objectives for Homedale families. And they change from time to time. So we may be leaning into mathematics, but we also need to talk about the classroom of the future. What are we working on AI? What are we looking on some of the advanced technology for the children, and have that kind of curriculum, and also looking at neurodiversity curriculum as well as AI curriculum and things of that nature. Not just what are we doing today, but what are we doing for tomorrow? And that's what really and truly matters. And that's what we need to focus on as well. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Dr. Kallur, the question on academics goes to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a great believer in pushing for academics in as much as you can without stressing our students, because I believe that's a predominant reason why they're in school, both math and language skills. And both of them, our schools were doing a little less than, they were doing average and slightly above average when I joined, and it is doing better. It's doing better year after year, the last 2-3 years, especially with our new superintendent, who's offered stability to our administration. I'm happy about that, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I mean, technology is our future, and both math and language skills are both required really for technology. So I think the basic skills, right from people with learning disabilities to people who are on the gifted, talented side, and encouraging people to join more honors classes, supporting teachers to teach deeper and great, maybe stricter, and use more creative forms of teaching. I think supporting teachers is a good thing in this area.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Kallur. Mr. Giampolo, the question is to you.
Thank you. I would agree that math is probably the most important subject, as well as one that could use improvement, has shown improvement and could use more. Math is the universal language. Mathematics is the foundation for robotics technology, which is going to become such an important part of the children's lives and most likely their careers. But not just supporting mathematics, but also being able to support use of it in important subjects regarding technology, regarding AI, as well as being able to regulate students' use of AI, throughout the classroom, which feeds into correct methods or better methods of teaching.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo. Mr. Kim, the question is yours.
It's a really thoughtful question, and math is really important. These are areas of that always can be improved. I'm 44. If you told me in 1998 when I graduated high school that a great job would be working at Google or Amazon as a product manager, no one knew this. But what do I know is that people with strong math backgrounds were able to do whatever they want. So our kids need a really solid math, science, technical background, and those are things we should work on. But it's Homedale. We don't have to pick and choose. We have a really well-rounded curriculum and education here, so we should continue to focus on those things. We have a great arts and music a culture. We have a championship level athletic program. And so we should continue to pour all our energy and focus into making our school the best it can be, because we can do anything we want in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. That concludes our third question. Mrs. Tassilo, you will be first on our fourth question, which pertains to turnover. The question is, how can we halt the revolving door of administrators and the resulting loss of institutional knowledge that Homedale has experienced over the past few years? What efforts will you as a board member take to retain experienced staff members in our district? The question is yours.
Thank you. So I think it starts at the top. I know that we've had turnover and that the community has been concerned. I do think that some were unavoidable, that that have been retirements. But I think that Dr. Cascone has been doing a great job. I think that the board needs to learn how to shift and really continue to support the administrators, the staff, because that's where it starts. It's a trickle-down effect. So if the administrators feel the support of the board, then the administrators will support the staff, and the staff will therefore support the students and the families.
Thank you, Mrs. Tassilo. Mr. Wall, the question on turnover goes to you.
Thank you for the question. I think the answer is very simple. We're in the period of greatest stability that Homedale's seen in recent history. We have a fantastic superintendent. We have placed in service incredible administrative staff. And I think folks need to realize during the pandemic, we had a tremendous amount of folks that chose to retire after years of service under their pension program. It was a wonderful opportunity to move on to different and better things, and they chose to do that. Most of the items that are regarding personnel, the question is, the premise of the question, I think, is somewhat faulty. So where we are today, we're in a solid place. We've got a fantastic superintendent. We've got a stable administrative staff. Folks make life changes from time to time in any organization, and it's what you do to move the organization forward in a leadership role that makes the key difference. And that's what I believe Wall, Corrigan, and Giampolo will continue to do moving forward. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Dr. Kalur, the question on turnover goes to you.
Thanks. I do agree that a few years ago, there was a much greater turnaround, of administrators. And I, again, thank the current superintendent for having brought some stability. But regarding a few positions that were turned over recently, what we could do, as my colleague Kim said, is that we can offer greater support for teachers in terms of professional development and maybe more teacher evaluation so that early on we can change their course. I think most of our staff is very good and our administrators are very good. And if we give them greater support, I think that would really help in retaining it better than what we are doing now.
Thank you, Dr. Kalor. Mr. Giampaolo.
Thank you. I echo the sentiment of my running mate Terrence Wall that the answer to this question really is what's been going on within the past I want to say 2 years, the past year or 2 years, and that we now have so much more stability. We have a good superintendent. It's not, I think at this point, it's not turnover like there was in the somewhat distant past. It's not something that I think is a concern right now. The question has kind of answered itself. I would say that, however, if there's, for example, if there's certain teachers, faculty members, our administrators that we seek to retain, and they need some type of additional support, be it from the Board of Education, then that's something we should certainly do. I think it's a matter of simply an open line of dialogue and communication. If there's something that an administrator, teacher, staff needs in order to stay with us, let's hear what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Giampaolo. Mr. Kim, the question on turnover goes to you.
Great question. And I'm going to grab the low-hanging fruit here. Like all of us in the places we work, in our homes, we want to feel valued, and we want to feel as our efforts are making a meaningful impact on an organization, in our community, and with our teachers. They want to know that they're impacting our community. So, how do we do this? We improve our school culture. We have Live Homedale Blue, a program authored and the architect Kim Tasillo, my running mate, who's done a great job introducing ways to kind of reward good behavior, improving school culture. Our teachers need the support of our families and our students to kind of do the best job they do. And so, again, this is low-hanging fruit. We know how to treat people well to make them work effectively and kind of reach their potential. If I'm on the board, my goal is to magnify the gifts and talents of our teachers, not be at odds with them, but to kind of help them do their job. So, we have great leadership. Dr. Cascone is a tremendous communicator, and, the leadership is strong. So we just need to give it a little more time to kind of take more roots and kind of develop this new teaching staff.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Sargent, the question goes to you.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Kim. It's all about the culture for the most part, and it starts at the top down. For anyone following me since I started running from Board of Ed, this is one of the topics that was first and foremost on my list. In the past 5 years, I've seen way too much turnover, the amount of principals, vice principals, switching schools, leaving. You can't have success when there's constant turnover. Children need consistency. The community needs consistency. Maybe this is my business hat coming out, but in the business world, it's either bad management, horrible policy, lack of support or resources, or the pay isn't competitive. Unfortunately, I'm assuming in this world, the pay is what it is. So we need to focus on the other items. Is it the parents? Is it statewide, or is this isolated to Homedale with this type of movement? These are all questions that I would ask. Have we ever done any independent questionnaires through agencies? Again, I know that's money spent, but you'd be very surprised. In the corporate world, we do it all the time. We have these agencies come in and they're not that expensive, and they have these surveys, and you'd be amazed at the stuff that you get from employees when they have the chance to speak anonymously. So I'd be interested in seeing what the real reasons were for turnover.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent.
Thank you.
Mr. Wall, we will begin with you for our fifth question. It is in regards to community engagement. How have you or do you plan to engage with students, parents, and community members to gather their input on educational policies? What role should social media play in facilitating discussions among parents in the district? Mr. Wall, the question is yours.
Thank you. There's a few pieces of that question in there, but as far as engagement, we initiated a strategic plan, which has brought the community together to help foster growth plans for Homedale schools and by extension, Homedale Township. You need to remember, it's not just the district. We are one town. You have the Township Committee, you have the Board of Ed, you have folks that utilize the school district, you You have parents and grandparents, great grandparents, and folks that aren't involved in the district at all. So we're responsible for them too. As far as soliciting feedback, I initiated senior surveys. Folks, the children are graded from kindergarten through 12th grade. What I wanted to institute, and we have, was allowing them to grade us. How are we doing? We have the feedback loop. Some of the folks that are running aren't aware that we have this in place already. We already survey the seniors, and now we want to bring it down to the middle school levels as well, so we can get that direct impact and have that feedback loop from our key users, the students, because they're the folks that that's why we're here. And that's our key interest group on behalf of the parents as well. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Dr. Kalor, the question on community engagement goes to you.
Thanks. So to some extent, we are, as with everything else, we are doing a decent job, better job than we did before, but we have to continue doing better. So the things that we are doing now are the superintendent does send out a letter to the community on a regular basis to the parents to inform them of what's going on. We also are trying to put something about our goings on in the township letter as well, so that community members whose students are not in the school are also engaged in what's going on. We have started more internship programs for students in high school in local Homedale businesses. A lot of Homedale residents who have businesses offered to sign up for internships. We were also encouraging the school to have career day in high school, rather than just in Indian Hill School, maybe middle school and high school. And we were trying to I think we should try to get community members involved in participating as volunteers, maybe in clubs or people or experts in certain field come and give some talks to students. This is what we can do more, because we have such a wealth of knowledge in the community members.
Thank you, Dr.
So
Kalor. Your
it's
time
work in
is up.
progress. Thank you.
Mr. Giampolo, the question on community engagement is yours.
Thank you. Yes, one of the best ways is utilizing the surveys in place that Terrence Wall just described. And also the reports that we see, the email reports that we see from Superintendent Cascone from the school, as well as Career Day, which was mentioned, which I was happy to participate in. Was it back in June? And that's, I think, maybe even more of that Career Day, because the more the children hear from people that are actually in these careers or have been in these careers for 10, 20 years, they can get a better idea of what their schooling is kind of leading up to. And really one of the best ways to engage is for parents, if they have concerns, is to show up at Board of Ed meetings, as I have been doing off and on for years. As far as social media, yes, it can be useful. However, it has its place, because we all know, unfortunately, way too often, someone will go on social media saying things that are not true. So people who don't even live in this town will try to exploit it, spread misinformation. So it's a tool, but it's a tool at times that needs to be regulated. The other means of engagement are often more honest and will yield better results.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo. Mr. Kim, the question on community engagement goes to you.
Really good question again. Homedale is a historic town. It was rooted in agriculture and it became a center of technology. It has a history that touches so many different things. And we have families here whose farms have been here for generations. We also have scientists who have made the biggest impacts in the history of the modern world. And so over the last several months, as I've been campaigning and meeting people in town, I've met amazing seniors, retired individuals who have so much to offer. And so when I talk about community engagement, we should be honoring these folks and asking them to help teach. When we talk about STEM and math and all these important things, we have the resources no town in New Jersey has. And so when I talk about community engagement, it is finding these folks who want to help and volunteer and do care about this town. And so that's part of the plan if I'm elected.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Sargent, the question on community engagement is yours.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I have to say community engagement is truly impressive in this district, something that we definitely weren't used to coming here. Don't have anything negative to say about it at all. social media is a loaded question. There's a lot in here. So I wanted to kind of talk about social media a little bit. I think it's a great tool to keep parents informed, about general school activities, sports functions, accomplishments, academic accomplishments, announcing a snow day, or just general going on in the community, or if there was, unfortunately a tragic event or a potential tragic event. It's a great tool. Everybody's on it. It is a double-edged sword. I think when it comes to Board of Ed members, I think they should use it with caution. Maybe when they post something, just turn off comments, because often or not, there's always somebody who disagrees with whatever the comment is, for better or for worse. There's always going to be somebody who disagrees, and oftentimes they go down a path that, probably shouldn't be, on a social media page for the Board of Ed. Or other times they're not consistent in who they respond to. They'll respond to their 4 favorites and disregard everybody else. They'll cherry pick their responses, and that's not good for the community either, and for transparency.
Mr. Sargent, your
you
time
know-
is up. Thank you. Mrs. Tassilo, the question is yours.
Thank you for the question. It's definitely been something on the current board's mind for quite some time. And I think that that was one of the biggest things to come out of the strategic plan, that in itself did involve many community members. And it was one of the biggest priorities that the current Board of Ed members put on our new superintendent, Dr. Cascone, which I think he's been doing a wonderful job. I think that we utilize the surveys, which I think have been wonderful, and we are looking to increase those to find out about 8th graders and are they staying or why aren't they staying. I'd like to see them. I'd like anonymous surveys of athletic coaches by the students, so we can see what's effective and what's not. Facebook, I don't know if anyone's friends with me on Facebook. It's out there. I rarely am using it nowadays. That being said, sorry, it's my house. That being said, I try not to respond, but I read it all.
Thank you for your comments, Dr. Mrs. Tassilo. All right, that concludes question number 5. Dr. Kallur, we will be beginning with you for our final question of the evening. Question number 6 is in regards to school spirit. What initiatives do you believe are most effective in fostering a strong sense of school spirit among students, staff, and the community? What is your favorite school tradition or event, and what new event or tradition would you like to see established?
All right. Thank you. The first part with the school culture, this is actually close to my heart. I believe that the school culture is changing, not only in our school, but most other schools as well. I believe students are struggling with just basic positive traits of just universal traits like respect and kindness and tolerance. And I think social media is contributing a lot to creating that kind of a culture. Not only is it reducing attention span and reducing academic progress, but it's also fostering bullying in various forms with cell phones and cyberspace. And the school is not a very safe place for people with social media and the evils that it has. So I think that restricting cell phone use to some extent and encouraging positive behavior and having appropriate consequences for negative behavior, supporting teachers in doing so will help. And in encouraging students to listen to different opinions, however, no matter what their views are, we all have something to learn from each other, particularly if the other person thinks differently from us. So that's
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the question on school spirit goes to Mr. Giampolo.
Thank you. I would say that what I like best about the schools in terms of the school spirit is a spirit of that we are all together Homedale, that we are maintaining, that we want to keep Homedale the way it is, and that we want our kids to do as good or better than us. I can say that I don't necessarily agree the culture of the schools is changing, and I do not want it to change. I would say that definitely use of distractions by children, such as cell phones, iPads, in school during class. Yes, that's something that should be controlled. Something that I think should be maybe more of a tradition is, for example, as we mentioned earlier, Career Day. Having participated in that at the schools a couple of months ago, I think that's a really great. I think that's a really great thing, and we should do more of it or make more of it. So, because the more the children see and hear from people that tell them this is where your education is ultimately going to take you. Do you want to do this after school? The more the children get exposed to that, I think the better.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo. Your time is up. Mr. Kim, the question on school spirit is yours.
It's a really fun and great question, and I'm going to answer this in a different way, and I'm going to talk about Live Homedale Blue. Kim Tasillo, the architect of it, a great program that it is not, what should be a great tradition in Homedale? Live Homedale Blue should be a great tradition where we reward the children in our schools for good behavior, to be good citizens, to be leaders, to grow up to be great people that we are proud to call Homedalians. People from Homedale when they go out into the world and lead their organizations and be great family people. So that's a tradition I think that is here. And I think Live Homedale Blue is going to help bring it out to the surface even more. And so that's something I love about Homedale and a tradition. And I heard about this today from the fire chief. He said that in the years past, they used to have candles, that people would get candles and they would put them in front of their home and everyone would light them. And it'd be such a great sight. And when I heard about it, it reminded me about the unity of this town. And in a time where there is so much disagreement and shattering of family values, it would be a great tradition for this town to bring that back. I said candles, fire safety, so maybe electronic candles these days, but
Thank you,
it'd be a
Mr. Kim. Your
tremendous
time-
tradition that we can bring back.
Thank you. Mr. Sargent, question on school spirit goes to you.
Sure. This is a difficult one. As I started off with at the beginning of this meeting, I said that, I've noticed a change in the culture, and I believe it's true, whether it is or not, subjective, of course. I noticed like there's things for like football games where they have theme nights and stuff like that, but I feel like it ends there, and it's a tremendous experience if you ever attend those theme nights at football games. We need to think of ways to incorporate more things like that, but more holistically for the larger populations. We have a very cultural town with a lot of diversity, maybe some sort of diversity, bring a meal to school day, obviously controlled, so kids could experience other cultures and get to know other cultures. It's really, unfortunate that we live in such a divisive world and our kids are starting to head that way. Social media doesn't help, but we need to bring the community together and do more things that are inclusive, bring everybody together, whether it's simple. I think Hazlitt does like a Hazlitt Day. And I think Mattawan has something similar. I'm not sure if Homedale has it. If so, I didn't get the invite.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Your time is up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Tasillo, the question on school spirit is yours.
So the newest tradition is Live Homedale Blue, and Ray spoke about that. So I'm going to talk about something else that I love, which is there used to be a community day. It was done by HYAA with the township. It's been several years. I would love to bring it back. So we tried to bring it back because I am on the HYAA board. We did try to bring it back last school year, and we could not get enough volunteers. So again, we need to increase community engagement, not just with the Board of Ed, but with all aspects of the township. But I'm a sucker for a Friday night football game. Our latest tradition at the high school project graduation with the senior walkthrough. I think that senior walkthrough is such a moment. And I can't wait for my second to be able to go through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Tasillo. Mr. Wall, the question on school spirit goes to you.
Thank you very much. I love this question. I think it's fantastic. We have new traditions and also embracing older traditions and bringing them forward. For the folks that are newer to the community, they may not be so familiar with them. One coming up shortly is Heritage Day. It's on December 8th. It's the Heritage Committee is doing fantastic work, and that's integrating both of the township and the schools. And that you may notice that's a common theme with me. I served 9 years on the Holmdel Township Committee, nearly 10 as an emergency medical technician volunteering in the community, and we should encourage volunteering in our fire and EMS services. But over to the school district, they're partnering, and the collaboration has never been better. So whether it's Eid or also the wonderful Diwali celebration that we just had, we want to encourage all of these things, both in school and also between the different jurisdictions that we have within the school, and especially our nonprofit and community groups. That's so we just continue the progress that I think is ongoing as we speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. So that concludes the question and answer portion of our forum. We will now move on to concluding statements, which will be given in reverse alphabetical order. As a reminder, each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes for his or her summation. So Mr. Wall, at this time, I would like to ask you and invite you to begin your concluding remarks, please.
I'm sorry, did you point to me?
Yes, I'm sorry, even though you finished the last question, you are first in reverse alphabetical order for the concluding remarks. So the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I want to thank CILU again. I want to thank my family for the support. We're volunteers, so we're trying to help make sure that Holmdel is the best place to live, work, and live, work, and raise a family, and also particularly in our schools. I'm proud to be a volunteer in the school district, leading as president of the Board of Ed this year. I think if you like Holmdel schools and you think that it's stable and a wonderful environment for your children, then I'm asking you to vote for Wall, Corrigan, and Giampolo so we can continue that progress. So when I think of my history in town, the Wall family has been in Holmdel for over 50 years. I love the town. I've been volunteering for years. So when you talk about community engagement, just share with you for the folks that aren't familiar with me, I was on the Township Committee for 9 years. Served about a decade on as an EMT on the Holmdel First Aid Squad as a vice president. I was president of Holmdel Rotary, president of the Holmdel Republican Party. Also, I was elected in District 6 and District 7. I've been volunteering for a long time. I'm proud of all the initiatives on the Holmdel School District. You can go to the website and you can see the videos and the various audio. So if you want to know where people stand and you want to know what they're going to do, when you want to look at where they've stood and what they have already done and accomplished. Our rankings are up, our property values have skyrocketed, and we have programs and staff from the top down, from the superintendent to our administrative staff that are dedicated to Holmdel students. That's why we're here. We're here to do a good job. We're here to leave this world better and for our children, for our families, and all of the stakeholders in Holmdel. So I appreciate your time. I want to thank Julie and your team. I'm an original member of CILU. I preserved over 1,000 acres of open space during my tenure on the committee, and I'm honored to be a part of this process tonight with my peers on the electronic dais. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wall, and thank you again for joining us tonight. Mrs. Tasillo, it is your turn for your summation, please.
Thank you. Thank you to CILU for having this and hosting. So I have 24 years experience in education, and I feel I am uniquely qualified to serve as a valuable member of the Holmdel Board of Ed. I've worked directly in the school system. I bring a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities that our schools face, both professionally and from the community standpoint. The experience allows me to make informed decisions that prioritize the needs of our students, our teachers, and our families. My practical understanding of how policies impact day-to-day learning enables me to advocate for meaningful, positive changes in our district and a perspective that most others cannot offer. I'd like to think that all of us here tonight, and Mrs. Corrigan, who cannot be here, that we all are looking to volunteer our time for the betterment of each and every Holmdel student. We may have different views as to what that is and how to get there, but I believe we are all coming from a good place. I think that we can agree that the board should be about our children, not politics, not personal gain. And I commit to you to work with all the board members that share this value and work with them as a cohesive team to move forward, because that's what our kids need and that's what they deserve. Please vote column 1 for Tasillo, Kalor, and Kim for Holmdel Board, and thank you for letting me participate.
Thank you, Mrs. Tasillo, and thank you again for joining us tonight. Mr. Sargent, it is your turn for your concluding remarks.
Sure, thank you. Thanks again, CILU, for hosting the event, giving all us candidates the ability to speak to the community members and for them to listen to us and what we stand for. More importantly, for us to see what questions they have and for them to express their concerns of where they feel the board should be focused. I'm a moderate conservative and proud. I keep an open mind to other ideas. My objectives maintain and always were parental rights, partner with parents, prioritize real issues, real tasks that affect our children as well as other community members, and also promote transparency. I hear that word a lot, but I still think there's a little more work that could be done. I'm hopeful you saw enough tonight on where I stand on key issues that you sent questions into, coupled with the success I've accomplished in the business world for over 25 years. If you put your confidence and faith in me, things on this board will change. This is an amazing community and we deserve better. We deserve professionalism. We deserve dedication. And most importantly, we deserve our Board of Ed members to act in an ethical manner at all times, whether it's on the field or off the field, in the boardroom or out of the boardroom, so to speak. At the end of the day, going through this experience has been quite a task. I'm extremely thankful to my wife and kids. They've unfortunately had to endure things that they should not have had to as a result of me running for the Board of Education. Their continued support kept me focused and determined on this process, and glad that they got me through it because it was tough. I also want to personally thank all the Homedale moms on the Homedale Mom page that supported my wife after what she went through throughout this campaign. Remember, on November 5th, let's change the landscape of this board. Let's elect change, and someone will stand up to the status quo and fight for all community members, not just conservatives. The Board of Ed should not be about politics. The community doesn't deserve that, but more importantly, our children don't deserve that. Remember Jeff Sargent for the Board of Ed on November 5th. It's my commitment and your values, not mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent, and thank you also for joining us this evening. Mr. Kim, we are ready for your concluding statement.
Thank you, CILU, for hosting this important forum. It's so meaningful to get the community together to kind of meet the candidates. And lets me say what matters most to me, and that's our children and families who support them. Homedale is a town built on the values of goodwill and good faith, and I believe we should expect the same from our public servants. That's why I'm running for the Board of Education, to represent our families and ensure public service is driven by community interest, not self-service. Communities like Homedale should have the right to create local policies that reflect our values, but it's going to take collaboration. When conflict and division dominate the dialogue, it becomes difficult to focus on what matters most, our children's education. Leadership that is constantly at odds with the community can't effectively prioritize student well-being, resource allocation, or academic progress. Trust breaks down, communication stalls, and essential decisions are delayed or poorly executed. So I humbly ask you for your support when you go to the polls in November, so that together we can lead Homedale forward. Please vote column 1 to Silo, Kalur, and Kim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim, and thank you for being with us tonight. Mr. Giampolo, your concluding statement, please.
I want to thank CILU for hosting this. Like my running mate Terrence Wall said, this is a volunteer position. This is an opportunity to volunteer for the community to help keep Homedale schools as good as we want them to be, which is why I'm seeking to do so, following my years of volunteering already on Homedale's Zoning Board and Finance Advisory Committee. I'd say, brief summation, if you like Homedale schools and its school community, if you like the way most of the existing Board of Education has served and has voted on important decisions to advance education, fiscal responsibility, and safeguard parental rights from any political agendas, then please vote for Wall, Corrigan, and Giampolo. I would say I'm not a moderate conservative when it comes to fiscal responsibility and parental rights. I think there is no room for moderation. I'm a conservative, and there is no room for moderation on those important topics. You're either going to be responsible with the town's money, with the school's money, or you're not. You're either going to safeguard parental rights, the rights of parents of their kids, or you're not. Please vote for Wall, Corrigan, Giampolo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giampolo, and thank you again for joining us this evening. Dr. Kalur, we're ready for your concluding statement, please.
Thank you. Okay. So I have, unlike a lot of people here who were born and raised in Homedale, I've chosen Homedale as my home. I've lived and studied and worked in 3 different continents. So I've experienced diversity of educational systems firsthand. And this global perspective allows me to bring a fresh and open-minded approach to the table. It was only after my sons left for college, although I lived here for 20 years, that I chose to get involved with community service. And I chose education because, from my culture, we believe that of all forms of wealth one could possess, a good, solid education is like gold. And since 2020, I've started serving on the, community service, and first on Homedale Green Team and then Homedale Zoning Board. And I've had the privilege of serving on the Homedale Board of Ed for the last 3 years. I've gained valuable experiences and made some meaningful contributions. My strength, I believe, is that I believe in the power of moderation, deliberation, and balance. Some say that there's a conflict between interests of parents and schools or students, but I believe that differences of opinion are good and we learn from our differences. And no matter what our views, we must remember that we share a common purpose, that is to give our children every opportunity to achieve their full potential. As a physician and a surgeon, I blend logical, STEM-based decision-making with empathy and intuitive problem solving. If elected, I'll bring the same thoughtful, unbiased approach to the board, free from political agendas, fully committed to serving our community. I humbly ask for your support when you go to the polls in November, that you vote for column 1 for Tusilo, Kolor, and Kim, leading Homedale forward for us to serve you best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalor, and thank you also for joining us this evening. I would like to thank all of the candidates for taking time out of their lives to work for the betterment of Homedale and for our schools. And thank you also to the attendees for participating in the governmental process. Now, about the election. Everything you need to know about deadlines, polling locations, tutorials on how to use the voting machines is located on our county's very excellent website, www.monmouthcountyvotes.com. And there is a vote by mail drop box located at the Senior or Community Center right here in Homedale if you would like to utilize that. Thank you again to everyone who attended. We hope that you gained insight into the candidates to help you in deciding how to vote. Voting is a privilege as well as a civic responsibility, and we are grateful that you are taking time to learn about the candidates. Your presence here shows that you care about our town. If you missed aspects of this event or you want to rewatch it, it will be posted on YouTube. I will try to do that tonight. And the link to the forum will be posted on our Facebook page. So search for Citizens for Informed Land Use -CILU. Our next meeting will be on Monday, November 18th, where Sandra Chalarico of foodrecovery.org will be speaking on the topic of food waste. For more information about this presentation and to learn about CILU or become a member, you can go to our website, www.homedale-cilu.org. So no matter where you live in Homedale, there is a very good chance that the work CILU volunteers have been doing for the past 26 years to protect our watershed, preserve our natural resources, and advocate for an open and transparent government has had a positive impact on your quality of life. We will continue to do this important work. If you want to get involved in your community and meet some very nice people, we ask you to consider joining us. The more people who join us, the more informed we can become, and the more we can accomplish to enrich this wonderful town of Homedale. Thank you again for your attention, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.